afternoon, everyone. I'm Anna Palmer. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Punchbowl News. I'm thrilled to be here today to moderate conversations about small business and what's happening here in Washington. We have been longstanding partners of Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Business Voices. We've had a conversation in a long-time partnership, and it's so special to us at Punchbowl News because we are actually a small business ourselves. Punchbowl News launched in January 2021 with 4 of us. We are now almost 50 people. We cover power, people. Thank you so much. We're really excited about it. We cover power, people, and politics here in Washington. If you aren't familiar with us, Punchbowl is the Secret Service nickname for the Capitol, and that's how we got our name. Over the past several years, we've worked with the 10,000 Small Businesses Voices program, going into states like my home state of North Dakota, Alabama, and to more urban areas like Detroit and Miami. And through it all, we've talked a lot with small business owners about the opportunities and also the challenges that you all are facing, from finding engaged employees to retaining them, dealing with the fallout of COVID, access to capital, and the future, technology, AI, and so much more. I'm thrilled to be joined this afternoon by my colleague, Andrew Desiderio. He's a senior congressional reporter for Punchbowl News, and we are going to be moderating a conversation with Representative Adrian Smith, the Republican from Nebraska, talking about small business, what he's seeing in rural communities as well. Afterwards, we're going to have a fireside chat that I'm going to moderate with Kevin O'Leary, the founder, investor, and the man you all know from Shark Tank. He's going to be joining me, as well as Jill Bomarito, founder and CEO of Ethel's Baking Company. As always, you can find Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. We encourage you to share this conversation widely. We're also streaming it as well. So now I'd like to welcome Andrew, as well as Representative Adrian Smith, to the stage for our lawmaker conversation. What amazing walk-on he's in.
That's right.
All right, we are going to start, as we always do, Congressman, with a few news of the day questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrew here.
Congressman, thank you so much for being here. We are on, as you know, day 29 of this ongoing government shutdown. The House has been out of session. The Senate is here. I just got back from the Capitol, right outside the Senate floor, where Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Ben Ray Lujan, a Democrat from New Mexico, were engaged in a pretty heated back and forth over this funding cliff on Saturday for the SNAP program. What is it going to take for Congress to get out of this mess?
Well, every day it seems to be a more tangible scenario that we are in. I think the first priority should be, let's not have ourselves in the same situation 2 months from now, even if something just magically came together. So that's my concern moving forward. I think that a clean CR is not just traditional. It's the right thing to do to avoid, this gamesmanship, if you will, as we head forward here, because we need to reopen the government. I would say there's probably more money being spent ultimately. This is a spending issue, although we're spending more money probably after a shutdown is all wrapped up than if we maintain some continuity along the way.
Shifting gears a little bit, you are the Trade Subcommittee Chair. There's been a lot of pushback from Republicans after the president announced a plan to import beef from Argentina. We were talking about the impact for farmers and ranchers in states like yours. They're very upset about the move, especially after the president seemed to insult them in a true social post. What's your view on all of this and what's happening?
Well, I think, farmers and ranchers are small businesses that I hear from a lot, and I appreciate that. Generally, and across manufacturing in Nebraska as well, that as it relates to the federal government, probably one of the most common requests is to be left alone. And so they want stability in markets, less drama moving forward in policies, whether it's tax policy or trade policy. Let's move forward in a way that we can build markets. Certainly leveling the playing field in trade is very important. Let's focus on the future there. There's good news today with China announcing some purchases of soybeans. It's been a while since that took place. That's right. Very good. And other positive developments in Southeast Asia that I think ultimately, as it relates to supply chains and small businesses, manufacturing, these are bright spots that I think will be received very very positively.
There's a lot of talk right now about healthcare policy as it relates to the shutdown. It's the issue Democrats have chosen to focus this whole debate, if you will, on. Some Republicans want to address the expiring Obamacare enhanced premium tax credits via a bipartisan deal with Democrats. Obviously, it would require getting 60 votes in the Senate. On the other hand, there are some more conservative Republicans who want to use the budget reconciliation process, whereby you only need Republican votes in order to get something done. What is your preference on that front? Because conservatives say one of their arguments for doing it via reconciliation is that Democrats have shown no interest in wanting to actually negotiate on this subject.
Well, you know, I talk to my constituents often, and it pains me when I hear them talk about doing everything they're supposed to be doing, and they still get kicked hard, and on several fronts, not just health care, but on several fronts. But when you look at what we've been trying to do, say eliminate duplication, we know there's duplication in Medicaid and Obamacare subsidies, and just eliminating the duplication has become far more difficult than it needs to be because there's resistance to any changes there. But eliminating duplication does not remove one single person from care. They still get the care, but now some other folks who might benefit from that duplication, they'll be concerned, but they're not. They shouldn't be our concern as much as it should be the individuals who are doing everything they're supposed to be doing. No fault of their own that this duplication happens as well. These are the things we have been trying to do, and we meet resistance. And so to try to, in the middle of a shutdown, think, well, we can move forward by giving, continuation of the status quo, that's, I think, very problematic. And I think, again, if we did that, we'd be in the same situation 2 months from now.
All right, let's shift gears to small business. Why we are here, we've got 2,200 small business owners primed and ready to not only hear from people, but to use their voices this week. You represent the state of Nebraska. There are a lot of small business owners who are your constituents. What are you hearing when it comes to the economy and small business in the Cornhusker state?
Well, usually when I visit a small business, and we have more manufacturing than we probably get credit for, but including ag producers, whether it's livestock, whether it's row crops, they like to point out that they perhaps bought a new piece of machinery and got to expense it because of our tax policy. Yeah. And what we did in 2017 was very good for small businesses, and they've been telling us that, so that's why we didn't want it to expire at the end of this year either, and that the productivity increases because of the tax code have been especially good for small businesses, ultimately good for consumers. That's what I think sometimes is left out of the discussion all too often.
You co-chair the Congressional Rural Caucus. You grew up in a rural community. Over the past couple of years, as you know, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses, has committed $100 million in capital and philanthropic support, launching what's called Grow with Rural America. The program is focused on supporting job creation, economic growth, increasing access to education, to capital development, and other things that businesses small businesses need on a daily basis. What is the most important thing that Congress and the White House can do to help small businesses in rural communities, like in the state that you represent, succeed?
I think we need to focus on the fact, often there's this desire to protect, say, a small business. I think we need to look at it differently in what policies can we pursue to strengthen small businesses. Now, like I said earlier, sometimes that means the federal government getting out of the way and letting some innovation lead more than government regulation, and that applies to healthcare as well. But I also have started the Modern Agriculture Caucus, really looking at the new ways of doing things to help feed the world. I mean, that in America, we do a great job with efficiency in agriculture, and so we help feed the world. We have affordable food policy here in America and help feed the world, and that's a tremendous charge. And so how can we leverage that to bring some prosperity to rural communities as well? So we have unique challenges in rural America. I think, electric vehicle mandates aren't so popular in rural America for obvious reasons. So we have to be mindful of just the differences and understand that things can still be achieved very positively, but in a little different way.
So Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Business Voices surveys small business owners as kind of a pressure testing of what's the sentiment, right, on a variety of different issues. And the most recent survey found that 78% of small businesses say they are optimistic about the future. I thought that was a pretty stunning statistic given the pessimism you often hear about from folks. They also found that 75% have plans to grow over the next year. What sort of policies, I mean, we're kind of talking about that a little bit with precision farming and kind of alluding to that, but are there programs that Congress can support in order to aid the growth of small businesses? I'm thinking, technology, thinking about making sure that some of these small businesses have the same, kind of ability to have the platforms and technology that larger businesses have access to.
Well, the workforce issues, the concerns there are so acute. Now that impacts childcare, especially problematic in rural areas, but housing, the workforce shortages. And I believe that there is room for bipartisan solutions here with reforming some of our programs to make sure that they're effectively lifting people out of poverty rather than keeping people down unintentionally. I don't think that's ever an intention, but there's the accidental situation that we have to address, and I think that's by lifting people out of poverty and broadening our workforce. I visited a manufacturing business, a small business. I think they had about 75 employees. They have already introduced robotics, and they have been doing well, but they said the way we get to the next level is with a broader workforce. If they could find the workers, they can take the business to the next level. You know what that means? That means they'll probably pay more in tax revenue, and we know we need that when you look at our fiscal situation.
Talking to small business owners across the country, one of the biggest concerns we often hear about is access to capital. What can Congress and the White House, the Trump administration, do on that front to help ease some of that burden?
Well, the access to capital, that is so important in that we don't want over-regulations on energy. When you look at the bottom line on the cost of small businesses relating to energy, that's huge. In fact, we've even heard from some who say addressing energy is more important than the tax code and the extra expenses that they see. So regulations across the board, we want to be smart about this. I think we can protect the environment with technology more so and probably more effectively than with the heavy hand of the federal government. So that can avail more capital, free up some resources there if energy is more affordable along the way.
So you mentioned manufacturing earlier and kind of maybe how people might not think of Nebraska as a manufacturing hub. The 10,000 Small Business Voices has also been really thinking about opportunities for small manufacturers, right? Tell us about the American Investment in Manufacturing and Main Street. This is a bill that you've been focused on.
Well, the expensing, we know, has been so important with the passage of our big, beautiful bill in July, that was so important. And we want to make sure that small businesses continue in a positive direction, reaping those benefits that we can move forward in a positive direction.
You know, a lot of members of the audience are going to be up on Capitol Hill tomorrow. You meet with constituents all the time, both back home and here in D.C., in your congressional office. Any advice for them as they head up to the Hill tomorrow?
Pardon me?
Advice for them.
Oh, any advice? Share your story. I think it is absolutely vital to hear from your front lines experience. You're on the front lines of the economy. Your challenges, your victories along the way. It's very important for us to hear that. And, we go back to our districts. Every district is a little bit different. There's certainly some overlap on issues and policies and preferences, but to articulate with as much specific information as you can, no proprietary secrets necessary, but your perspective is what is so important. I think back to when, there was this 1099 reporting requirement that was so cumbersome for especially small businesses. And I think the Senate tried to pass a repeal numerous times and the House too. And after small businesses said, here's what it means, we got that repealed. We fixed that in a way that was far better for small business, all businesses, but especially especially for small businesses.
Yeah, I want to like double click on that for a minute, because when you think about it, people often don't feel like they have a voice here, right? You have 2,200 people who are going to come to the Hill tomorrow. In that same survey, 81% of small business owners say they don't feel like they have a voice in Washington. That's a pretty stunning statistic when you think about optimism, growth. This is the engine often of the economy here in America, and really you think about the American dream is what a lot of these people are realizing through a lot of hard work. How do you think, is there something Congress needs to do, or how can small business owners feel like they're being heard by policymakers and the staff? Because oftentimes you're meeting with staff, you guys can't meet with everybody who's coming into your offices.
Sure. Well, I try to meet with every single Nebraskan, every single constituent who wants an appointment, and that it's good for me. I'm proud to say that our Nebraska delegation has had the longest running delegation breakfast where anyone from Nebraska is invited on Wednesday mornings when the House and Senate are both in session. That's been going more than 80 years. I'm proud to say that. And we introduce folks who are present. They get to tell us what they're working on, what they're concerned about. We as a delegation can ask them questions, and then also discuss among the delegation how important these topics are. And so every office is going to be a little bit different. I even take some visits from folks from other districts as well, certainly as it relates to international trade and the importance of leveling the playing field there and our supply chains and how acute those needs are to get our supply chains back on track and affordable. I appreciate hearing from folks on the front lines. So it can be a small business or medium size that might have unique needs, but a lot of it boils down to that having that conversation that I appreciate. And oftentimes I travel across the district for that as well.
Creating a relationship, right? I mean, I think one of the things that we hear a lot when it comes to what makes a difference and why it's important for people to come to D.C., to have that face-to-face time, and not just once, but kind of make the arguments over the years, is that you kind of all of a sudden, you remember who's in these kind of towns and who are in these committees. We are almost out of time for this conversation, but before I let you go, I always like to project forward, right? Like, you've got all these people who are saying the future is bright, they're growing their businesses. Project 5 years forward. What is something that Congress and Washington can do, should do, from your perspective when it comes to helping small businesses?
The workforce development. When I see the needs, there's concerns about AI putting people out of work. I want to be sensitive to that, but I also know that we have needs today that small businesses are being held back because of a lack of workforce. So that available workforce. And so that is something that we want to make sure they have the options, though, maybe to pursue some technology to fill those gaps. But I'm excited about efficiencies that can happen across the economy that are technology-driven, perhaps, and that new ideas are popping up. I hope we never get to the point where folks are just so disappointed they're not looking for new ideas to solve the next problem. America is unique in our ability and our productivity in producing new ways of doing things. Let's make sure we push forward on that front, realizing that it's rarely centered in the government. It's centered in the private sector, where folks are working hard and creatively to solve problems. I hope we empower that, we strengthen that moving forward.
It's an embrace of technology. We are going to leave it there. Congressman Smith, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman.
Mr. Kevin O'Leary. He is a founder, investor, and Shark Tank star. Thank you, sir. As well as Jill Bomarito, founder and CEO of Ethel's Baking Company, for a fireside chat. All right. Please. All right. Well, Kevin, we're going to start with you. We are sitting in front of a couple thousand small business owners who are here to spread the message of what they need and want from Washington as part of the 10,000 Small Business Voices program. Talk a little bit about why you decided to use your platform and dedicate time in the policy arena to champion small businesses.
I noticed about 15 years ago, it's a great question, by the way, I started this perverse hobby of reading the bills as they came out of Washington. Like, have you ever seen these acts? I mean, these things like telephone books used to be. And I started reading them saying, well, I'm going to look for the language that supports the companies I've invested in. And, you know, over the last 18 years, I've invested in a lot of companies. And so we became very good, very efficient at looking for the programs that were offered in these different bills as they went through. It didn't matter which party was in the White House. Every bill, I would assume, had some support for small business because 73% of jobs created in America are created by companies 5 to 500 employees in every state, whether it's red or blue. So we are the economy, basically, and the S&P 500 has 50% of its employees working offshore for various reasons because they're global companies. Most of the companies I'm talking about are domestic. So I would have made the assumption, as anybody would have, that every act had something for the majority of job creation. Wow, was I wrong. Most of these acts, including stuff like the infrastructure bill of recent times and the CHIPS and Science Act, nothing, zero in there, nothing. So I said, wow, I got millions of followers. I think I'll just knock on the doors. I'll go into the halls of the Senate and into the House and see if anybody wants to see me. And lo and behold, they were very open because what politician doesn't want job creation or the leverage of social media, which is the only reason they want to talk to me. So I started marching into the offices and showing them the bills and saying, I've, yellow lined all the good stuff for small business and showed them there's no yellow lines in any of this. But what I learned, it's a long answer, but I'm going to finish it here, the staffers write the law. The staff writes the law. So it's great to meet the big dog, he or she, but if you don't spend time here with the staffers, you're getting nothing. And so now I'm really good at it. And when I see bad law, as I did in the big, beautiful bill, I'm going to take some credit for fixing it. I went in there and said, you can't do this to small business. They were proposing a 9-year audit on businesses that took the ERC credit or any of the credits from previous bills. That's nuts. Well, who can afford a 9-year audit? It would put you in limbo. And the staffers are not stupid. So we fixed that. I'm going to keep doing this. I like working with the staffers. They're not dumb.
It's an important message, though, because I think oftentimes you think you want to meet with the big person in Washington, right? But often it's the people behind. We at Punchbowl News, we cover the people behind the people because they have so much power.
Not often, all the time.
Right.
The big dog says, this person on my staff's taking care of that language and that bill.
Yep.
Well, I want to meet with them.
It's smart.
Thank you, big dog.
There you go. Jill, you are the founder and CEO of Ethel's Baking Company. Tell us a little bit about your journey. This is not the first time you've even sat with Kevin.
No, it's not. We had the opportunity to testify in front of Congress in the House Small Business Committee last year. And it was an experience. It was amazing to be able to sit and share your real stories and hear Kevin with his passion about small business. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity.
And Ethel's Baking Company, tell us a little bit about the journey.
So Ethel's Baking Company, we're a bakery in Detroit. We, thank you. When I started in the 10,000 Small Business Program, we were putting everything in bags by hand, delivering it in my G6 car to all the stores, and my growth plan was to be an international company. And we're now across all 52 states and over 5,000 stores. So I'm really proud of that.
What an amazing journey. Congratulations. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about investing in rural America. 2 years ago, we went to North Dakota, my home state, and we went to Alabama as part of Goldman Sachs making a $100 million commitment to spur rural small businesses. Can you talk a little bit, Kevin? You believe North Dakota is a winner, I believe.
Yeah.
Talk about the Wonder Fund, what sort of economic impact you're seeing, and where do you think lawmakers should be focused when it comes to some of these rural investments?
So there's something remarkable in the Constitution that was well thought out, hundreds of years ago. The competition of states, the concept of competing state against state for the investor's capital. So for a long time, most investments were made on the coasts, particularly in technology in the early 70s, 80s, and 90s, and rural America was ignored. But slowly, the policymakers in states like Virginia, North Dakota, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Montana, look at the policy. Tennessee, another one, Florida, Texas. You don't have to invest in bad policy. You can invest in a place where the taxes are very low for small business, the regulations are very accommodative for small business, and the markets are very accommodative in terms of talent. And I'd argue, I had never been to Fargo, North Dakota, till this company called PRX showed up on Shark Tank 15 years ago. And just for the fun of it, I said, let's go ice fishing, let's go check it out. And we shot a thing there, and all the cameras froze. It was like 150 below zero. But what a place. It's got a massive Microsoft campus nobody knew about. Doug Burgum was the governor at the time. We hit it off, and we started investing there. It's a phenomenal place. So, you find these states where the policy is very accommodative, and it's much easier to make the investment. So I would argue to everybody, stop just looking at, I got in trouble saying winner state, loser state, but there are winners and losers. And you don't have to listen to me. You can just watch the capital leaving loser states, going to winner states, and the people and the growth. Just look at the growth of Tennessee or Nashville or Miami there's a reason for that. It's good for business, and it's a competition. So the more you make it difficult for capital, it quietly goes to the path of least resistance, and I think that's very healthy. Let the loser states compete to become winners, and let the voters realize bad policy really hurts. It's bad policy.
Jill, I want to go into some numbers, because I think stats are really important. They focus the mind, and 10,000 Small Business Voices does such a good job surveying this tracking poll, which we referenced in our previous conversation as well. But the latest 10,000 Small Business Voices survey shows that 73% of small business owners are concerned about access to capital. At the same time, 75% of small business owners who applied for a business loan or a line of credit over the last year found it hard to get. What's your message when it comes to tomorrow and to members of Congress around, you're trying to grow a business and you can't get the money that's needed to actually do that?
That's a great question, and it's one that we struggle with from the day we start our business to the day we grow our business to the day we sell or transition our business. Your financial journey changes as the business moves through its pathway, and our message tomorrow and every day is please make it easier for small businesses to have access to capital. Truly, let's look at the regulatory process and make it simpler for banks to fill out the paperwork for an SBA loan. In my experience, and I know many of you have experienced this, when you walk into a bank, what they want to do desperately is put you in a traditional loan. They will try every way to steer you from the SBA loan because it's so hard and it's more expensive for them. So if we could start with that, and then at the same time, not only make it easier, but you will have to take some other paths. I've had all kinds of loans and ways to put my business together, from your 401k to mortgaging your home, friends and family, and then being bankable, because that is part of the success of a business, is to be bankable. The biggest risk that the bank sees is a fast-growing business. Anything over 10%, and they're like, whoa, 50%? No way, 100%, forget it. That's when you need capital the most. And so when I created my growth plan, my goal was to be bankable, which I was for a small business loan. But when I need $1.5 million or $2 million in capital to invest in equipment, I had to sell equity, and I've done it 3 times now. Nothing against investors, but that was the way to get it done, and to decrease my risk. So we need to make it easier for small businesses to grow their business and be more successful as the foundation of this economy, which we are.
We are quickly running out of time, but Kevin, I want to go to you because you've got 2,200 small business owners, headed up to the Hill tomorrow. You started this conversation talking about your experience coming to the Hill. Why does it matter to have that in-person conversation? What's going to sell these staffers and these members to actually take action when it comes to small business?
Yeah, you know, I sort of didn't deal with Washington for a long time, and then I figured out that was a mistake, because if you think about, I don't shill for politicians, because politicians come and go, but policy remains. Legacy policy or new bills or new acts. And we don't have enough advocates to represent companies that are in that sort of $1 to $5 million in sales. The ones that have proven they have a product or service, they've proven they can acquire customers, they're starting to launch and grow beyond their relatives who are, you know, when you start a business, you can always sell it to your aunt. But if you are $1 million in sales, you've got people buying it because it's solving a problem for them that don't even know you personally, and that's a real business. And so what I found was, if you can get in front of any senator, any governor, if you can just get in front of them, they're all pro for business. They have, the reason is, back home where they come from, there are people that own the dry cleaners that vote for them, and own the car dealerships, and own the bakeries, and they know who they are. And it's not that you want to put them to shame, but you want to ask them, why, when you're writing this bill for $500 billion, wouldn't you throw a bone to the people that made you the senator? Like, and, you know, it's a good message.
Yeah.
This is why I think this organization is very important, and David Solomon, the CEO, should give this organization more money. More money.
Well, I'm going to be on stage with David tomorrow morning.
Tell him I said so.
I will. Thank you both so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow, guys.